and this is our first Google Hangout. So we want to welcome you if you're joining us today. This is the first of one of many we're going to be having in the future, and the whole goal for us really is to be of service to you. So if you are here today, I will bet it's because you're going through a major change, not the kind of change that you think you can probably manage pretty well just by determination or sheer grit. No, probably the kind of change that you are dealing with is one that is rocking your world. And it's probably rocking it so hard that you're having difficulty finding your center, or you may be getting lost and trying to figure out what in the world is going on. Like both of us and the changes that we've been through, you may even be praying that things are going to get better, only to find that they're getting worse, that the bottom keeps falling out. And just when you think you've reached the low, that maybe there's a new low that presents itself. Well, it's really all on purpose. Marnie?
Yeah. So, big shifts are happening for everybody. People are talking about it everywhere you see. So we talk about people shifting, and a lot of us are going through these major changes. And that's why we're holding this Hangout, to bring you together, to offer support and encouragement, and hopefully help you better understand what's really going on, to extend a hand of support and to show up in service to you. The big issue that we're seeing is this not trusting ourselves. As we go through these things, it's an opportunity to learn to trust ourselves, to trust our voice, to trust our intuition, to lead us through this life's transition. Yeah.
And this is exactly how Marnie and I came together, that we felt throughout our journeys, without really understanding what was going on, we felt impressed to reach out to each other at pivotal times in support, and only to find out that we were going through the same thing. And this actually came about through listening to our own intuition, feeling directed and impressed just to reach out and extend a hand of service and support to see how we could do that. So we're talking about you going through major change. And what we're going to be talking about today is nothing new. There are many others who have written about it very eloquently. Joseph Campbell was probably one of the first that I'm familiar with. He's talked about this whole change process and how events show up in our life as catalysts, a major event. He talks about some of the process, but he's just one of many. He's the father of the change process. But there's a number of people, throughout the last 7 years, I've read hundreds of books trying to understand what this process was. So people that you may recognize, like Barbara DeAngelis or Robin Sharma, John Maxwell, Napoleon Hill, Martha Beck, who writes for Oprah magazine, Stephen Covey, James Van Praagh, Sue Frederick, who is really instrumental in my journey. Many others that you may not even recognize. I've read hundreds of these books. But what we're talking about, we're going to talk about some of that change too, but the aspect that may not be coming up as much frequently is the extent of change that many of us are experiencing today. Big shifts are happening, as Marnie has said. And so often we're being impacted on many different levels that are shaking us to the core. And we're finding it difficult to understand what's going on and how it's going on. But again, it really is on purpose.
Yeah, and there's a process, there's principles and tools that we've learned that can ease, this journey for you, so it's not so difficult. And we both worked with numerous practitioners who've helped us through this transition, who've really been a support to us. And anyway, go ahead, Anastasia.
No, I was just in total agreement. And as Marnie and I came together, at one point we felt impressed to reach out to each other and talk about some of the existing changes that were going on, finding out that our journeys were very similar. And as we were talking more, we found out that the process that we were going through was almost identical, as well as some of the tools and the principles. And so that's what's brought us together today, to really help us talk about it so that we can see how you might benefit. So if something resonates, great. If something doesn't, let it go. It just means maybe it's not for you, or maybe it just doesn't align with your philosophies or your principles. That's okay. We're going to be here. We've scheduled the next hour, but we'll take whatever we take today, just again to be in service to you. So Marnie, what do you say you start with your story so people can get a background for you?
Yeah. I guess my story starts a couple of years ago. It was August of 2011. I'd gone to the beach with my family. I'd been there for about a week, and I was at a state in my business where I was kind of burnt out and not really enjoying it. It was I had really taken the whole summer off, and then it was kind of highlighted at the end by this trip to the beach, and just played on the beach with my kids and everything, and didn't do anything, didn't even think about work. I couldn't even think of a business thought if I wanted to. And on the way back, I started reflecting on the trip, and I realized that I had spent the bulk of the trip with my kids, and my husband had been off in the bedroom just watching television or something, and hadn't really connected with the family. And it had been a pattern in my life to me and the kids and him doing something else. And I started to evaluate my marriage at that point as well. So I had my business and my marriage there was something amiss. And so I started on this drive home from the beach to visualize and think about and really catch the vision that I could create any life that I wanted to, that I had permission, that God was on board with me creating whatever life that I wanted to, that I didn't have to just settle for something that wasn't making me happy. And so I visualized the way I wanted the relationships in my life to be, that pivotal relationship of marriage, but also business relationships, and how I wanted to show up in my business, and how I wanted to have a lot of energy, to be passionate about what I was doing. I had the light, the world stuff started at that point, but I had kind of lost interest in it. It kind of fizzled a little bit. I wasn't doing much with it. I was focused on idea marketers, and I couldn't get into it. So I didn't know where I wanted to go. I just knew I needed to be passionate about my life again. I was burnt out. And so the first thing that I decided to do when I got back was to get in shape, because I knew I didn't have enough energy to do it. I'd been sitting at a computer for 20-something years, got the big computer spread, had put on about 35 pounds, and I didn't feel good. I was just dragging, and I thought, okay, first off, if I want to have that level of passion and energy and attract that level of people into my life, I've got to have this energy. So I went home, started working out. Actually worked with a Simply Healed practitioner, a friend of mine, Rhonda Hess, who helped me around exercise, because I hated exercise. I really hated it, but I made myself do it. And after a certain point, I began to love it, and I became addicted to it, and I just love working out now. But I dropped the 35 pounds. I feel 15 years younger, and so I started getting my life under control. And then in about February of last year, I had gone down to a conference and was talking to a friend of mine, and she asked me a really pointed question about my marriage situation, because I still wasn't happy with that. It wasn't materializing the way I thought it would. I thought maybe things would shift if I shifted, right? Everybody says fix yourself, right, and everybody else will fix. Well, it wasn't happening. So anyway, she asked me this really pointed question. And I knew I was done, but I didn't know how, and I wasn't really willing to say anything about it just yet. So I let it simmer a bit and was really kind of prayerful about it. Okay, is this really what I need to be doing? And I'd already been feeling that this situation was going to end, that he was being moved out of my life. I really felt a prompting from God about that, but I just didn't know how that was going to happen. So I kind of let go, went into a wait-and-see mode. And then in April, something happened that just triggered me to open up and speak up. My big challenge and over all these years is I'm speaking up to the world, and I'm telling everybody else, to speak up, share your message, do all this other stuff. And I'm very vocal out in the world, but in my home, as my sister says, you're out here stirring up the world, but you won't stir a teacup in your own home. I was just stuffing everything. I wasn't happy, but I didn't want to hurt anybody, and so I was just stuffing. And so I came to this point where I can either speak my truth and admit the way I'm feeling, or I can sugarcoat this one more time. And it was like, don't sugarcoat it again, speak your truth. And I did, and it set me in motion to eventually, my divorce was final this week. So, and it worked. It was amicable. It was something that a friend let me know that you could have an amicable divorce, and so we created that, and so it worked out okay, and it's for the best for everybody. It's best for our kids. They've adjusted really well, and both of us. But it was something that I was scared to do. And there were so many points along the way where some people were like, it's inconsistent that God would tell you to do this. But I felt like God was telling me to do it. And I really got to the point, a lot of people who follow me know my business went through a major transition as well on top of this. Let ideal marketers go. And so my business was resetting as well. So I had gotten to this point where I had bottomed out. And the only thing I had left was this intuition, this connection with the divine to know what I needed to do next. And I knew there came this one point where I either trust my intuition and the messages I was getting, or I'm nothing. Just take me home, Lord. I'm useless. It came to that point. And I think maybe that may be a common factor. But I'm going to let Anastasia tell her story, and we'll see if there's any common factors there.
Well, the common factor, it's if you're going through the kind of change that Marnie and I are talking about today, you completely understand and relate when Marnie says you bottom out. And we all get to that point. It's on purpose to get us, to wake us up to our truth and what that means. So yes, there are so many similarities. I've been a change practitioner in organizations, have specialized with 15 plus years in larger organizations on taking people or implementing change. Little did I know that that would be all then turned towards an inward focus. I had spent so much of my career driving for the external factors of what success looked like, or what I thought I had to have, or what I needed in order to feel and to be successful. And my journey, very much like Marnie's, is I got to a point where I bottomed out. And when she says that you have this moment of clarity, we all do, where we know our truth will pop up from us, and we cannot contain it any longer, where we know we are to either move forward or do something, whether anybody else ever will understand or get it or not. We know that truth, and we can either stuff it down or we can acknowledge it and move forward. But it's going to keep showing up and keep showing up and keep showing up till you acknowledge it. So how can I say that? Well, in the last 7 years, I have been through a divorce. I've been laid off. I went through a career change. I had a business revamp. I had a daughter leave for college. What else? Moved across state to an unknown location, kind of started again. So there have been huge changes in my life. And through each change, these same patterns that Marnie has been describing have occurred. It's really around understanding there's a vision. What is the vision for your life? And what is it that you're really being called forward to be? I believe I do happen to have intuitive gifts, so I have a stronger connection to the other side. But we are here. We come to this life with a specific purpose, a beautiful mission to accomplish that we alone are here to do. It's about our mission, our purpose in life. And so when we get to these pivotal points in our life where we're bumping up against either we've already learned the lessons that we're here to learn and it's time to progress and step up, these little markers are going to show up in our lives. These events will cause us to be able to wake us up to what our next mission is, our higher purpose is, or get us back on track, because sometimes we do get off track. And so through all of these times, if you're going through a difficult change and you're wondering what in the world is going on, that's what's going on. And if you're having multiple changes, it's because there are big shifts going on in the world everywhere. But this is about, let's not talk about the world, let's talk about you. This is about you realigning your life to the fullest purpose. And if you've gone, like myself, I was at the height of my career when I, 7 years ago, made a decision to move to Northern California. I went with the best of intentions, thinking everything was going to be dandy, it would continue, and for a period of time it did. But then the learning and the lessons that I had been here to gain were done, and it was time to let go. And so I had a choice. listen to what I knew to be true for myself, or go back. Well, I can tell you today we're not ever here to go back. We're here to continue to progress. I want you to imagine that is your purpose is like a funnel that goes upwards. And that when we start here, we learn, we continue to grow and progress, and our purposes ever expand. And there's seasons and cycles of our life. So when you're done with the learning and the progression that we came here to gain in a particular experience, then there may be times when you let go. And so in my case, it was a job, and there was a divorce that I went through, and there was career changes, all of these things. And it's never intended to hurt the other people or to cause pain. It's really about stepping into your truth and being able to align with your purposes so that you can fulfill your beautiful mission. You have things that are unique to you that are going to light you up. And Marnie talked about this intuition that is so important. That the things that light you up, it's because you're supposed to be using them. So Marnie and I talked about before we started here, this Google Hangout just came together with ease. It was ease, it was fun, it was comfortable. This is because it lights us up. If it's difficult or you're facing challenges, then those are the intuition or the guidance that you're being receiving to know maybe that's not. Maybe you're getting off path, or maybe it's time to let go and move forward. So that's the kind of changes we've been through. We can talk a whole lot. This is really the high-level condensed version of what's gone on in our lives. But there is so much more here that we could share with you if that's of interest to you. And that's why we're holding these Google Hangouts, to be able to talk a little bit more about some of those tools or those principles or those practices that can really make a difference for you. Because there were times, Marnie, where you called me and I'd never done this with maybe one other person. I just cried, and you're like a business colleague. I didn't know you at that point, and you just felt impressed to call me, and there was one day where it was the ugly cry. Tears were crawling up, mascara everywhere, and you were just sat there, and you were with me. You were with me in that moment. And so this is what we're doing in this virtual environment, is we're opening it up to be of support and service to you. It's going to be crazy, I'm telling you. If you're thinking, you know what, I'll just take a pass. No, it's probably going to be too hard, too difficult. Guess what? The change is inevitable. There is no way you're going to be able to get out of it because life is not static. It is about this change. It's about us moving and growing and learning and moving forward. And so if you're not paying attention, or if you're not willing to go through it, these events are going to become more and more difficult. So the best thing you can do, as Marnie has said, is acknowledge your truth. Acknowledge what it is true for you. It's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. This change cycle that we're taking through, it's never easy. The only way over it is through it. You've got to go through it. And so there's lots of lessons, owning your emotions, being able to release them, the exercise you've talked about, Marnie. I mean, so many things we could talk to you about, but that's the point. So why are you going through dramatic change? It's because to get you back on your true path, if you've gotten a little bit off tangent, or to have you step up, let go of that which no longer serves you, and step up into your truest, highest purpose. And then the final thing is understanding that there is a process. Marnie talked a little bit about this. Acknowledging your truth is part of it, but speaking your truth in love, as Marnie did. You can create that vision for what you want. Yes, and it will take work, and it's about divine timing and allowing events and people and places to come into your life to help create that. But absolutely, that's where it starts. Marnie spoke so eloquently about that, creating the vision. What is it that you really want? Marnie told us that she knew there was something more. I know from my experience when I was in corporate that I knew at a moment I could no longer stay in a high-rise building in downtown LA. It's these moments of clarity. So what is it that you really want to do? And allow that today. Maybe just allow that. So that's my story. Marnie, back to you.
Yeah. I've seen some comments come in, so we might see what are some of the challenges y'all are facing. You know, if you're on the Google Plus, you can leave a comment there, or maybe if you're on the Facebook, looking at it there, you can leave a comment and kind of tell us a little bit. Got some nice comments from Kathleen Gage. She said she's gone through a big change in her business that's so positive, but she wanted to give us a quick shout out and tell us we were two of her favorite women. So thank you, Kathleen.
And Kathleen went through not only a business change, but a physical change herself. Again, the physical aspect, she dropped, what, I think something like 50 pounds. So she's one of my favorite gals, too. Thanks, Kathleen.
Yeah. And Denise has an idea for a headset. So Denise Wakeman has the good ideas for the headset. So it's cool.
You don't like the sportscaster look?
Yeah. So I'll take a quick look at our Facebook, see if we got anything going on there. But we'll come back and see if there's more comments in a bit. But a couple things that really stood out to me when Anastasia was talking was, I remember that day that I felt that kind of nudge to reach out to her. It was like I was at my son's, I was out in Boise, Idaho for my son's wedding. And so I was busy doing the wedding stuff, preparing. I was in the hotel that morning. And just this check on Anastasia. And I hadn't talked to you, in 2 or 3 months or something, I don't know. But I sent you a Facebook message and you said, your timing is impeccable. Mm-hmm. And I went in the bathroom because my husband at the time was out watching television. I went there and talked to you. And it was at a pivotal moment. And I feel like we're connected, not only you and I are connected, but we're all connected to each other. And when you're going through something very difficult like this, a lot of people want to isolate and they want to just like, I'm going to go be a hermit and deal with this all on my own. And I just think that maybe I shouldn't say nobody should do that. Maybe, there are times you want to go lick your wounds or whatever. But open yourself up to the support. My colleagues and friends have really rallied around me as I went through this, and it has been easy. It's been a graceful experience. I mean, sure, it has its drama moments, like anything would, but I was never alone. I was completely supported, I believe, on, both sides, heaven and earth here, by people that really cared about me. And so building those support systems around you, especially if you have to do something difficult, if it's a change that you realize, okay, this isn't working for me anymore, and I got to make a change, create a support system around you, because you're going to want to chicken out. You're going to want to say, well, this is too hard. I'll go back, and maybe I don't need to make this change. But if you have people around you supporting you, you can keep going, and they'll be like your cheerleaders to help you get on through it. Have you found that as well, Anastasia?
Yes. And what is so beneficial to being with people not only who are going through the same things you are, or who have already gone through them, is they can share with you ways and strategies, ideas that will actually ease your journey. And that's the whole point of these calls, is you can, maybe just by even understanding that there is a process, that where you are is exactly where you need to be. It's not by some accident. A lot of the different kinds of coaching that I do with people today, they think they've made some mistake. And yes, we can make choices, absolutely. But a lot of these things are really around us helping to understand it's not necessarily a failure. It's a growth. It's a learning. And sometimes we get stuck in the perceived failure. And I'm so guilty of this myself, where something happens and like, I failed. No, when you can have someone share from a broader perspective, and they've been there, they've already traversed the journey, they're coming from a different perspective. I'm looking back and saying, oh, sister, I know what you're talking about. It was terrible, but here's what I learned. Here was the joy. Now, I know myself, Marnie, that I would do it again. Now, I can say that. When I was doing the ugly cry with you, no, I would not have been able to say that. But the peace and the joy and the understanding that I've gained, the wisdom that's come from that, I would do it again. But that comes with having been through it. So being able to share those kinds of things with people, to say, keep going, don't lose hope, all is well, you're exactly where you need to be, otherwise you would be somewhere different. The other thing that came to mind is when I heard about Kathleen and Denise there, 4 years ago, I went to a Radiant Success event. I had no idea who you were. Kathleen, Denise, these people were all new to me. Janice Pettit, I know that you guys all came together. I never would have believed that I would have been here at this place. And yet, this is all, again, about divine timing, connecting us. We are all connected here. Sometimes we're masters and we're the teachers, and sometimes we're the students. And I have been on both sides, and with you, all of you here today, I've been the recipient of the teaching, and how blessed I am to be able to say that I do know you and what I learned from that Radiant Success event to carry it forward to today. So that's what we're here together. We're all connected to help each other, support each other, move each other forward, and lift each other up when sometimes we get tired or we need support.
Yeah, totally. One other thing, and then we can wrap it up here, but I was thinking about what you were talking about, letting go of things, because I think for both of us, we've gone through a process of simplifying our lives and getting everything out of the way that's not the essential. I've heard you say that a lot, the essentials that matter. My friend Laura West calls it right-sizing your life, because a lot of times we think we need all this stuff or these things, or we're doing a lot of activities with. Maybe there's a lot of work that you're doing that you don't even need to be doing, and letting things go and getting down to what really you are excited about and what really fuels you and what you're here to do. A lot of times, in order to get to that place, you got to let stuff go, and it feels painful. But, in the end, it's a lighter, freer place to go.
It is absolutely, yeah. I know you and I have talked, Marnie, that in my life today, I have less than I ever have, and I'm happier than I've ever been. And it's because I was using those things to fill up the void that had been there. So if I were to share one tip or one thought, as we talk about this responsibility or the opportunity that we have in this change journey you may be on, it's to own your actions and to do the right thing. Speak in love, speak your truth in love and compassion, knowing that everyone who's on your journey is there on purpose to either help you move forward or to support you, but they're there doing exactly who and being who you need them to be so you can move forward. So speak your truth in love, and be willing to address maybe what is really holding you back, because the challenge that you're going through right now, it's the key to your breakthrough. It's the long-standing issue that has probably been something you haven't been willing to address, and the timing and the events are right now for you to use that, to look at it, to heal from it, and then to use that energy to propel you forward. So we're here in service to you.
Yeah. And that process, as I've analyzed it as the light bearer process, there's a point in that process where everything falls away like that. It's part of it, and it's all going to take you to a better place. You're going to be glowing and shiny, and we're all tested on the very thing that we're teaching, most likely. So if you're trying to figure out the lesson of what it is that you're going through, look at your strengths, look at what you've been teaching in the past, where you think you got it covered. Because probably within it is the flaw. Like me, I'm all about expressing everybody, but my weakness was not expressing myself in a major area of my life. So look at your strengths and where you've been teaching, and then look and see if there's not some lesson inside of that you can dig deeper. And if I'd leave you a tip, a journal your way through it, write down what you're getting along the way. There's something about journaling that pulls it out of you, but also it's a chance, it's a gift. It's sort of like you've learned so many things, you've been teaching it, now you're being tested on the very thing you're teaching, and this opportunity is a gift for you to dive deep, dig deeper than you ever have, and find solutions and answers and processes that can help other people who are going through what you've been through. And if you will document as you go through it, you're going to be able to hit the ground running on the other side, because you're going to have it all documented to create a program or a system if you're an entrepreneur or something like that, or just to be able to help other people you meet in your personal everyday life. So we're going to be, if you're interested in these discussions, we're going to be doing these the second and fourth Fridays of each month, starting in September. And so we've got one scheduled for the 13th and the 27th of September, and that's 11 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, and we would really love to hear your comments to know if this was a support to you or if there's any particular comments or topics you want to further explore. So what we have lots we can share, but we can kind of narrow the focus if there's a particular interest. Also, the call has been recorded, and we'll be posting it, as Marnie was on earlier, posting it to all the different channels that she has. But if you do want to refer back to it or forward the link to somebody else, we'll be posting that on Facebook. And you can also go to ignitepoint.com/hangout. So I think, Marnie, is there any other comments you want to wrap up with before we close?
No, this has been fun. Always good to talk to you, Anastasia.
All right, so for the closing comments from me, be well, be safe. There's a quote I'd like to close with from Louise Hay that really helped me. The quote is, "All is well. Everything is working for my highest good. Out of the situation, only good will come, and I am safe." So be well. We send our love, hugs, and kisses. Thank you.
Bye.